I got in a lot of trouble on social media a couple of years ago for saying this. I know. I was in a mom's group and someone posted, they said, give us your most unpopular opinion.
Uh-huh.
And you had things like, I like pineapple on pizza, and Team Jacob. Okay. Fair. Right. From Twilight and all these things. And I had a couple of bourbons, not gonna lie. And I said, if you bring a child into this world and you don't get a self-defense education, I think you're a lazy parent.
What the hell's going on out here?
Thank you all for joining us. We have our guest today, Jerah. I met you opening day, March 30th. Wife. Yeah, little over a month ago. And it was, I can't speak for you, speak for myself, though. It was like, I sat down, you and my wife started talking. A couple of things just fell out of your mouth, and it was extremely natural. And it was like, holy shit, I want to be her friend.
I knew Tamika from the sort of chamber stuff that she was involved in. She had me speak at Evolve.
Oh, okay.
1 year. And so that's kind of how we knew each other. We met in a networking group, a business networking group that they used to do kind of over by the church there in, I think, Colleyville. Might have been where it was, but yeah, that's how we met. And we were fast friends, man. We were spirit animals as far as, like what we're going to put up with and what we're not going to put up with. I mean, time is currency, time is valuable. And so when people want, a piece of your time, you have to make it valuable for that person.
Right.
Not really, no matter who they are. Because everybody has something going on. And so I felt like she brought a lot of value to the community. So we were really good. We were fast friends.
It doesn't surprise me at all that you say that you and my wife met at a networking event, because if there's two people who are going to be fast friends with fucking anyone in the room, it seems like it would be you two, more or less. But like all that being said, the networking aspect, which again, we've hung out a half a dozen times tops. We have a really deep relationship, you and I, in that we share a couple of memes back and forth every now and then.
Meme relationships are the best.
Right? But again, like all that being said, and we spoke about just a little bit ago, like you seem like a starter. Like in the little bit we've talked, it just seems like you're someone who accomplishes everything, or at least a lot of things.
It's what my career turned into kind of in my early 30s. I had a really cool opportunity. I'm a gun person. So I've been shooting for 30 years. Mm-hmm. My family was about, shooters and hunters, and I grew up in the country. And then I was, to shorten the story, I had moved to Little Elm, which is right by Frisco. The Frisco Gun Club they just put walls up. I had some clients at the time. I was a headhunter, so I would convince lawyers and CIOs and CEOs and doctors and people like that to like literally move across the country for different jobs. Like that was my job. And so I had to entertain these clients, and I had to convince them that this was going to be the best thing for themselves, their families, all of this. And so some of them really enjoyed shooting. And when I saw this gun club, I called up, and they had one employee who was their marketing guy. And I started asking all these questions. I'm like, what are your caliber restrictions? And can I shoot standing, kneeling, and prone? And what kind of events are you going to have? And I just kind of started, asking all these questions. And the guy was like, I don't know the answer to any of this. Would you like a job? And I'm like,
that's cool.
I got a job. I'm like, that's why I'm calling you, to give you business. I've got a job over here. And the guy kept hounding me for a job, or to, come work there. And so eventually it piqued my interest enough that I wanted to do, we came to an agreement about what that would look like. And we sold, 2,500 pre-opening memberships. So before the Frisco Gun Club even opened, we had 2,500 memberships sold.
Damn.
It was over $1 million in pre-opening membership revenue that was in the bank.
Before a single round was discharged.
Before a single round was discharged, we had that place rolling. And then, that's where I paid attention. I was in a lot of the meetings, the construction meetings. I learned a lot of the regulations. I learned a lot about how these things are built and how they work. And, being a shooter and being familiar with guns now, was by no means an expert. And I didn't have any of the instructor training that I do now. I mean, this was almost 10 years ago. So now, I'm in a different position. And so I kind of thought to myself, this would be cool to do again. Or, so you update your LinkedIn and you say, hey, I helped build a gun range. And then everybody wants you to build their gun range. And so that's kind of how I started doing that. And I've built, I've helped with 4. I've consulted on 4 in Texas. And so that really, really kind of got me, into the gun business. And then I wanted to instruct and I wanted to build my own business, and I kind of wanted to stop, working for other people, even though I was a contractor and technically I didn't. Mm-hmm. I wanted to work for other people. So
you might not work for them, but you certainly answered to them.
Yeah. And so when you asked me to come on and you told me what the title of the podcast was, Fueled by Spite, I had a great story for that. Cause I went down to Austin to get my license to carry instructor certificate, and it's a weekend long class. It's like a 3-day long class, and you have to qualify with a wheel gun and a semi-automatic. You have to take all of this class time. And there was 180 people that went to this class. So, the state of Texas is really kind of inundated with LTC instructors, but there's not very many women. So in the 180 people that were in this class, there were only 2 women, and it was me and this chick that just retired from the Navy, and she was pretty cool. So she and I sat together, and we literally listened to these guys say to us over and over and over again, all weekend. These DPS instructors were like, this is a part-time thing. This is a passion project. This is a community effort. And it is all of those things, but they kept hammering it into your head that like, you'll never make a full-time living teaching guns and teaching gun law. And I'm looking at her and she's looking at me, and we're like, hold my rosé, if you will. And we went back to our respective areas of Texas, and we built really successful businesses. And I made $250,000 in 2021 teaching guns. And so it's like
part-time.
Part-time. Yeah. I mean, it's something that, I hear that, and I hear somebody telling me that, and I'm like, I don't think so. I think I can do this, and I think I can make it really successful, because in my head, I had a different strategy, and I wanted to market myself to an underserved market, which was women. Mm-hmm. And by doing that, I knew that this would happen, and I would pick up male clients because I was good at what I did. I knew I was good at what I did. I've been writing. I come from a family of writers. And so I've been writing articles and curriculum and workshops and things forever. And so I knew that I could take this and I could make it easier for women to learn. And then by doing that, they would go home with this knowledge, and they would tell their husbands, you're not doing it right. And that's exactly what happened. Uh-huh. And so then I would get some husbands that would call me and go, you know what? I've never, my grandpa taught me, and my grandpa taught me too. Yeah. Okay. But it wasn't, none of it ever clicked in such a way that I could transfer that knowledge to someone else until I got formal instruction.
Right.
And so I think that that's what a lot of communities are missing, especially in Pro 2A areas, is a lot of stupid things happen that you see on the news just because you either got complacent or you didn't have good formal instruction. Mm-hmm. And I think everybody should have that. And so now I have, probably a 70-30 base, right? 70% of my clients are women and 30% of my clients are men. But I have men that come to me that come through my whole academy. And then they go on their respective maintenance programs. And so, somebody at the DPS told me that I couldn't do it full time. Uh-huh. And I was like, you watch me, say less, say less. So I did it, I've done it full time for years now. And then, and I did do it part time for a long time. I mean, in total, I've been teaching guns for 15 years and I've been shooting for 30. And then, I wanted to pivot, and especially when, constitutional carry was kind of on mm-hmm. the plate, and it really had a chance of passing, and I supported that. And then I got a lot of flack from instructors in Texas that told me I didn't care about my community because I wanted people to get their freedom back. And I was like, I think that you forgot why we got in this game to begin with. And it was for freedom, and nobody should have to pay a stupid tax to own a firearm. Now, should you be morally obedient or morally, convicted to go out and get training, absolutely you should. But I don't think that it should be, you should go to jail if you don't. I don't think that you should, have to pay a fine if you don't. I think it's just the right thing to do. And I think that we could educate people on that instead of legislating them into being criminals, on that front. And it's up to us to do it. And we have to hold each other accountable if we're going to have, communities of firearms owners that are going to be responsible for it.
I want to make sure that little quip comes out, just instead of legislating them into being criminals.
Yeah,
it's like exactly what, like, I've never heard it put so succinctly. That was fucking beautiful.
I mean, there's a great organization called the DC Project that goes to the Capitol and promotes this, and their whole mantra is education before legislation. And so, one of the things I discovered, and you actually have one, when I taught a huge class in Missouri this weekend, called the Train and Learn. It's called the No Other Choice Train and Learn, and Mantis was a sponsor of that. And Mantis is an amazing system where you can dry fire your gun, or you can even get a gun that you can literally do anything: grip, stance, sight picture, trigger pull, recoil management, marksmanship, all of it at home. You don't even have to step foot in a range. Now, you need to get used to the sounds. You need the actual recoil management, because the CO2 will give you probably about 70% of it. Right. Okay. But it's still a good start. And it allows you to practice at home when, the kids are off school and you don't have time to go to the range, but you really want to. 15, 20 minutes a day, right? There's so many educational tools for people to be able to do this. And it just makes me spiteful and angry when people try to tell me that, I don't need to have this. I don't need to have guns. I don't need to have military grade weapons. I need to have anything the military has, because it's up to us to hold them accountable.
Yep.
That's the whole point of the Second Amendment.
I'm not gonna lie, it kind of feels like they're pulling away from us a little bit.
It's the whole point. Okay. So you have to think about this, when you think about freedom and the Second Amendment and all this, it's in business too, right? You're here in this business. Somebody could get mad at you if you give them a diagnosis they don't like, or you tell them, hey, maybe you need to lose a little weight. Okay. Because let's face it, everybody's like, giving us lectures on fat shaming, but for real, a lot of your problems are because you're fat. Let's talk about it.
You're not wrong.
Okay. A lot of your problems is because you haven't seen a treadmill since the Reagan administration. Get up.
Like I just posted a reel today. It's like, someone comes in with headache, neck pain, back pain, sciatica, whatever. My first, doc, what can I do? What stretches should I do? What exercise should I do? What I want you to do is I want you to just go walk, regardless of the diagnosis. Because if they can put in the effort and energy that it takes to literally just get up and walk,
it's so
that
easy.
Will tell me that they're willing to do other stuff. But if you can't even go for a 15-minute walk after dinner, it doesn't matter what stretch I give you.
My cousin lost 100 pounds in a year walking on a treadmill every day.
Yep.
Walking on it, and she did it 7 days a week. You could do that 7 days a week. You walk 7 days a week. And so, somebody could not appreciate that diagnosis and say, oh, Dr. Taylor's fat shaming me over here and come in here and try to murder you.
Sure could.
You have the right to protect yourself, your family, your business, and to a degree, your property. Now that's a whole different, that's a whole different thing to break down, but.
And people would hear that, be like, who would come in? Who would do that? It might not even be a patient. So this is my third office. The one I was at prior to this, I would go out, my parking spot was right out in front, and I would park in the same spot every day, because when people would pull up, they'd see Dr. Taylor's truck, they knew he was in the office. Found out the hard way that, I walked to work, it was 3 blocks away. Why did you drive 3 blocks? Because people needed to see the truck. I walked there and I rode my bike there a couple times. We had more cancellations on those days when I didn't take my truck, because people literally drive through the parking lot. Oh, he's not here. But anyway, neither here nor there. Point is, I park in the same spot. I get done at the office one day. It's 6:05, 6:15 or whatever, and I'm walking out, and I'm going to my truck, and the driver's side door is open. And so my truck's in the spot, driver's side door's open, and there's a red SUV that's running with its door open. And I'm walking out, and I come around the side, and a guy pops his head out of this is at 6:15 in the summertime, the sun is up, and I'm like, hey, bro, what are you doing? He goes, oh, I'm here to get someone's bag. I'm like, who's someone? He goes, the guy that owns this truck. I'm like, I'm that guy. Actually, it was slightly chilly out because I had a jacket on. And legit, I went like that and just pulled my coat away because I appendix carry. Mm-hmm. And he saw it and he fucking left. immediately.
And you didn't even have to,
Not
to kill anybody. But again, and these are statistics that, the CDC doesn't really want to keep because, you can see how many potential, burglaries, robberies, muggings, things like that people thwart just by reaching for it. They don't even necessarily have to deploy it, which is a good thing.
It's a wonderful thing.
Which is a good thing. But, we have so many people that, they do stupid things with their guns because they don't have an education, but they don't want to educate people. They want to legislate out your rights because they have to appear as though they're doing something. And so you just never know. You never know when and you never know where. And that's why I carry everywhere. And, and a lot of that was, fueled by the spite of people who told me, you can't do it. You can't be good at it. You can't make a living doing it. And you shouldn't do it because the greater good.
Right. Tell me how you really feel.
Listen, I just, so it's become my mission to, educate myself on gear, educate myself on different firearms. There's always so much new technology coming out on the market. Mantis being the big, this has to be a partnership, but women are going to carry a heavy burden with this. Okay. You brought the child into the world, and look, I got in a lot of trouble on social media a couple of years ago for saying this. I know. I was in a mom's group and someone posted, they said, give us your most unpopular opinion. And you had things like, I like pineapple on pizza, and Team Jacob. Okay.
Fair.
Right. From Twilight and all these things. And I had a couple of bourbons, not gonna lie. And I said, if you bring a child into this world and you don't get a self-defense education, I think you're a lazy parent. Whoa.
I bet that went over really well in the moms group.
Whoa. And there were actually moms in that group that were students of mine that said, I agree. And I waited too long and I should have done it earlier. And boy, I think that as soon as you are able to, as a matter of fact, I think if you know you're going to have kids, if you plan on having a family, you should do it. You should already have it. You shouldn't wait till they're there. Okay. You should have a medical education. You should have a CPR BLS, first aid, stop the bleed education. And you should have firearms and non-lethal weapons and self-defense education before you even ever have kids. Anybody should.
How did I meet you in a restaurant then? Because it sounds like this is more in your wheelhouse, passion, for lack of a better word, than running the front of a house would be.
Well, when constitutional carry passed, which I was very much for, I wasn't sure how it would affect my business. I really couldn't forecast that. And so I needed to pivot. I wanted to do that anyway. I mean, if you're going to retire, you have to have multiple streams of income. And I've always been, I was a bartender for 15 years and, I can train guns anytime I want to. So those were all things that I could, fall back on, to be able to do once I've established other streams of income, mailbox money, as it were.
Yep.
Okay. And so I had the opportunity to consult. I'm a big spirits aficionado, a big cigar aficionado, have been for 20 years. So I got the opportunity to do Hearsay Arlington over in Choctaw Stadium with Mayor Jim Ross and the executive ownership of the Texas Rangers. And I had experience doing startups. I had restaurant experience, not to the point where I was ever a general manager, before this time.
Yep.
But I knew what it took to, stock a bar. I knew what it took to train people on steps of service. And then, from my other startup experiences, I knew the template to getting a business off the ground and things that people aren't going to think of, like, oh, I need a phone number. And how am I going to automate scheduling and, just putting in the business infrastructure that was needed. So the architect and the designer took care of all the build out. I didn't really have anything to do with that really. But all the back end stuff that a business would need, I've gotten really good at that. I mean, this is my 7th startup.
I was literally just going to, so if you had to guess, which doesn't seem like you have to guess, you started 7 separate businesses.
Yes. Yes. I've started 7 separate businesses.
Was the Frisco gun range, was that the first one?
It was. I was technically a W-2 employee there. selling memberships, and I did a lot of event stuff there, but that was the educational project that kind of started all this. And then we went and did Defender Outdoors in Fort Worth, and we went and did the Texas Gun Experience here. And, now I kind of have an itch to have my own, like I want to, not on that level. I don't want to have to run something that's that enormous.
Right.
But there's a little place that I've been eyeing that's like a paintball facility that has
like a boutique gun range. Is that
that's what I was. That's kind of what I'm thinking I want to do. Because and just have build it out and have a few memberships. But I want it to be other things too. So I even wanted to do like a co-working space there, and have a few offices that people can rent out. Do the gun range thing small. I want to do like a little small outdoor one, small indoor one. Just maybe a few lanes where it can be utilized all year round. And then I don't necessarily want to do a retail store, because I think there's a lot of small business around here that deserve to be supported, in that endeavor. But maybe just have, ammo for sale and things like that if people forget. And then I want to do a cigar lounge and small bar, there. That's, obviously, you don't drink first and then go shoot, but it's something that you can enjoy after. And we've never had a problem. Frisco Gun Club had that and never had an issue. They had a TABC license in a gun range. Now it was Cambodian water torture to get, but we did it. And so I think that there's something, to that. And then I even want like a chef's kitchen in there. I don't want to do a restaurant, but I would love for chefs all around DFW to be able to utilize this kitchen and do small, intimate, membership dinners or charity functions, and things like that. And I kind of have an idea of where I want to put that. So
that's awesome. A little different, obviously. Shouldn't surprise you at all. You're different than every guest I've had so far. But everyone I've had here, and obviously going off my own experience, it's okay. We start this thing and we're riding it into the ground. Whether it's me in the chiropractic office, this pot, like this is one thing that I'm just gonna go. I don't see myself quitting it. I see myself taking this and making it as good as I can. At the same time, like if I'm going from a chiropractic standpoint, I have no desire to do this again. I don't want to start another office. I don't want to build another office. So the fact that you go out and you have built 7 different businesses blows my mind. How?
I think that what you're talking about is a little bit different, because if you went and did, 2 or 3 more offices, you would be beholden to them. They would be yours. Mm-hmm. These are not mine. I came and consulted on them and said, this is how I would do it. Mm-hmm. I think this could streamline some things. If you look at your P&L here, you'll see this is where you're spending. Like that's what I'm doing.
Okay.
And then I'm doing all of the small, minute, the hiring, right? The things that the investor groups don't have time to do, depending on how hands-on they want to be.
Fair. Okay.
Okay. Like I've had projects where the ownership wanted to do their own hiring. I know I didn't have a problem with that, and I wasn't involved in it. But the things that, promotion, social media, getting those things off the ground until they can figure out, do we want a social media company to come in and do this? Or do we want to have an employee run our social media? So I'm just this go-between that gets things started for people. Mm-hmm. And then they figure out, do I want to stay on? I stayed on with Defender for 4 years. I started their training program. I found them a training director that was better than me, which is the point. You want to have the best, right? But sometimes when you're getting it off the ground, done is better than perfect. And so then you continue to make it better, as time goes on. So, I sold their, at Defender, I sold their memberships. I ran their training department and I ran their events department. And I came up with some really cool events. And that's kind of where some things start to take a downturn, because when you come up with a really good concept, people want to own your intellectual property. Uh-huh. And I'm not dumb. So I don't sign any kind of, I don't sign documents that say, well, whatever you come up with here stays here. Uh-huh. I'm not doing that because it's my intellectual property and I came up with it. And so we did this really cool event called Machine Guns and Mimosas. And
sounds fantastic.
It was, and the ownership was like, we're going to get slayed on social media. And I'm like, you need to start standing up for something. Okay. Because we're not getting people hooted on champagne and orange juice and then sending the men to shoot. Like,
Right.
that's not what's happening. We're doing the shooting first. We're exposing women to things that they wouldn't normally shoot. It's super fun, very novelty, cool social media. I mean, you're going to get a lot of social media tags on this, and it's going to raise your follower rate, which is what you want. And we did that. Oh my gosh, we had 80 women show up for the first Machine Guns and Mimosas. And then we had this really awesome brunch, like catered brunch set out that Let Us Cook did for us. And then we had the mimosa bar, and they sat around for an hour and had brunch and cleaned mimosas, and then they all went home. And it was like a 2.5 hour event. And it was awesome. I mean, it was so many people were wanting to copy this, and I didn't care, because I want other gun ranges to be able to do unique things like this, instead of trying to, it gets old trying to tell people, just come to the gun range, You should do it. You need to do it. Like, make it fun, And so then I would just, like, if I would, come up with ideas as I'm brainstorming or meditating, and I would just write them down. And we did this really great event at, Texas Gun Experience called Smoke and Guns. And it was, they got, people came, and it was, a unisex event. We had 120 people show up for it. And, they made a lot of money on it. And we did all kinds of cool, people got to go shoot their own guns. They could shoot some of the cool, we had the John Wick, Combat Master, gun out there that people got to shoot. People got to do the Gatling gun, all these things. And then, they came in, and we had a Meet You Anywhere barbecue is fantastic barbecue. And they came and did a huge barbecue spread, and very elegant. We had wine and mimosas for the ladies. We had a really high-end bourbon and cigars for anybody that wanted that stuff. We had a bourbon smoking station with a little cloche, and everything. And it was an amazing event. We had DAV cigars. We had Armin Caprillion come down from New York to sponsor it with his, cigars and everything. And it was a great event. And so, but then, they're like, oh, we don't want anybody else to be able to do this. And I'm like, well, it's mine, not yours. I'm sorry. I came up with it. It was my brainchild. I love that. You know what I mean? And so that's what I want to do is, I love doing stuff like that to kind of bring people in and give people like a unique experience. And but to your point, they're not mine. So the stress, I get to just move on,
right?
And continue to have the relationships and go back and teach and do all that stuff. So
that's so fucking cool. Like, and it's fun because as you're saying that too, and like, hey, here's what I think your life is like. And you're like, you're fucking wrong. like close, but no. And it's the same thing like with these interviews, things like I have an idea. And I told you before the show, it's like, hey, I have an idea of what we're going to talk about. But in all reality, I have no idea what's going to happen here. It's so cool learning just these different aspects of people's lives. And like just the different ways that you can become successful in spite of other people. And the amount of times that, you said the instructors told you no, you had all these other companies like, hey, we're going to, we want to take this idea. And like, no, like this is something for everybody. Like this is something people should be able to do. And if it promotes your passion, to get more people involved in guns and, just even less scared of guns. Like, I think that's so much of, the range. Hey, come to the range. It's so much of it, I think, is just a stereotypical people thinks it's an old boys club.
I think that's evolved in a good direction over the last few years, but I don't get as many weird looks when I walk into gun ranges anymore. And I don't get, even though like in the military, I have a hashtag and every once in a while I'll share it on social media, but I have a hashtag, everyone thinks I'm a dude. Because they do. And in the military, it's hilarious.
To wrap this up in a sense. So obviously one of your biggest passions is something that is incredibly divisive, right? So, I mean, you face far more backlash just doing what you love than, a regular person who's starting a bit. I don't want to put in quotes, a regular person who's starting a business. So you've got a lot more people that are trying to get you to quit. What keeps you going? Or another way to put it, why do you think so many regular people or average people, regardless of what it is they set out to do, quit?
Well, I tell people all the time when it comes to guns that if I can master this tool, I think anybody can. I'm a pretty small woman,
I thought you were taller.
And so I don't think that, I think that people revel in their excuses. There's a really great, contrary to everything that we've talked about today, I love Jesus. And there's a really great pastor named Christine Kane that has a wonderful sermon on YouTube called Do You Really Want to Be Healed? And she talks about how people will use their excuses and their pain and their fear as a crutch, right? And you have all of these people in the Bible. We know their issues, but we don't know their name, right? So, the woman with 5 husbands, the one with the issue of blood, all of these people, we know their issue, but they don't know their name. And I think that sometimes it makes you wonder, are you so deep in your pain and your fear that you've forgotten your name and you've forgotten that you're a true child of God and that you have everything at your fingertips? You should fear nothing. And so when you're hearing a calling and when you're feeling like, I pushed it away for a long time. I mean, I did it part-time and it was a nice little side hustle. But, when you hear the calling of, hey, you need to start talking about this and you need to start inspiring people to get this education, and you need to start bringing women's voices to the forefront of the Second Amendment. I didn't want to do it because I didn't want any backlash. I just wanted people to like me, right? I wanted to be, and it turned me into someone who, honestly, I'm a good person, but I'm not always a pleasant person, because now I am motivated by my right to have rights. And I don't want anybody to take that away from me. And I think that other people are scared to stand up. They're scared to stand up to the machine. And you don't get to live free unless you do that, unless you stand up, unless you speak truth to power. And so people who have great ideas for businesses, everything that you ever wanted is literally at the bottom of the work you don't want to do. And that's what it is. You could have this person, you could be the best person, the best at what you do. And it's not going to matter if I outwork you. Yep. It doesn't matter. If I went to chiropractor school right now and finished, and you were just lazy and you were like, oh, I can get by with, 40 clients, and why would I want to work harder than that? And then I get out of chiropractor school and I open an office over there and I outwork you and I have, 500 clients, and then all your clients are hearing about me and I take all your clients away, but you're the better chiropractor. Does it really matter? Because I just took all your clients away because, I just worked harder than you and I put myself out there a little bit more.
It's fucking beautiful. It's like, you're right. You're absolutely right. Like,
it's because people are lazy.
It is like it's seriously, and you're 100% on. Like, it's at the bottom of the work you don't want to do. Like, fuck. All you gotta do is go get it. I mean, seriously, because especially now, building a business now is, I think, so much easier than it used to be. So much easier.
You have so much technology at your fingertips to be able to automate things and get your name out there. And there's almost not an excuse, if you have, especially go to the networking. You never know who you're going to meet at a networking event who could open doors for 100%. You. It's freaking wild. It's 100%. Really, really wild.
God, this is fucking awesome. Like, it really, like, I heard a quote somewhere on this, go the extra mile. It's less crowded up there.
100%.
It's absolutely true. And you're right. Yeah. Like, there is so much to be said just for fucking hustle. Just hustle. Like, I don't know if it's out yet, or I recorded an episode called "Don't Let the Sun Catch You Sleeping." Yeah. And there's so many people that, like, it's super easy to be a success if you just set your fucking alarm.
100%. And you just got to get out of bed.
Yeah.
There's, what's her name? She's got a really great podcast. And I can't remember her name, but she has, she calls it the $1 Million Morning.
Okay.
And it's literally the easiest thing in the world. Is she's just like, get out of fucking bed. Like, your life is waiting for you. She goes, but the snooze button is your enemy. And she goes, literally, when your alarm goes off, you open your eyes and you go 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, and you get out of bed and you walk to the coffee maker. You make yourself a pot of coffee, or if you're fancy and you have one with a timer, it's already ready right? for you. You pour a cup of coffee and you give yourself your 5 or 10 minutes to just kind of walk around and be a zombie, and then you get to fucking work.
Yep.
And that's how the top 1% becomes the top 1%. And then you're sitting out down here wallowing like the man by the well, and Jesus comes and says, hey, do you want to be healed? And all he does is make excuses. The smart person would have said, yeah. you're Jesus, heal me. But he's like, I don't have anybody to put me in the pool, And then one of the coolest things about that story is when you take up your mat and walk, as a metaphor, because that's what he was able to do, once he was healed. And then he went into the sanctuary. He had never been in the sanctuary.
Mm-hmm.
So when you take up your mat and walk, right, when you take responsibility for yourself and you don't let the pain and the fear own you, he went into a place that he had never been before. And so when you do that, you gain access to places that you never had access to before. Because up here, you're not making excuses. Nobody wants to sit around with somebody that makes excuses all day, even if they're valid.
Mm-hmm.
Even if they're valid at some point, and that's what I tell my friends is, if we're going to sit down and talk about your problems, we're going to do it once. Okay. We're going to talk about your problems once. And then after that, all the conversations are about solutions to those problems.
Yeah.
And if you're not going to do the solution to the problem, I don't want to talk about your problems anymore because they're going to exist until you squash them, and you only squash them with solutions.
Shit. Like I'm right back on the patio on March 30th. Jerah, I want to be your friend. If we're going to talk about your problems, we're going to do it once. Fuck, I needed that line so many times.
I want to hear about them. Vent to me. Like I get getting it.
I need that line to use on.
Yes, I mean that's what I'm saying is to people. I'm like, get it off your chest and tell me. Whine, cry, feel sorry for yourself. Conversation number 1.
Yep.
Okay. Conversation number 2. We ain't doing that again because it's just it's a pool that nobody's ever going to put you in.
I really appreciate the time. This has been absolutely fantastic, Jerah. Everyone, thanks for sticking with us through the whole thing. Again, Jerah, actually, is there anywhere people could find you or that you want people to find you?
Yeah, all my social medias are at Clearing the Chamber.
Nice.
So Instagram at Clearing the Chamber. Yeah, Facebook at Clearing the Chamber. I'm on Rumble, which is a freedom platform, at Clearing the Chamber. And then, find me on LinkedIn if you're a professional. Jerah Hutchins, Jerah, last name Hutchins with an I. I actually have more followers on LinkedIn than anywhere.
Perfect. Why not? So again, guys, Fueled by Spite. Seriously, it happens every time. You will learn more here by accident than elsewhere by design. Thanks for watching. Thanks for listening. Catch us on the next one.